Scorpio, listen to me with the part of you that feels everything too much and yet pretends it feels nothing at all. Because what I'm about to tell you is not wrapped in sugar or illusion. Your heart will ache, and it will ache deeply. But that ache is not punishment. It is protection. It is God stepping between you and a wound that would cut far deeper if He allowed things to continue the way they are now. There is a situation, a person, a path, or a dream you've built entire inner worlds around, and you can already feel something shifting beneath the surface, like the floor of your life is quietly moving, like the air around you has changed texture, like you're standing in a room that looks the same but doesn't feel the same anymore. Your intuition knows before your mind admits it. Something is being taken out of your hands or rerouted or slowed down. And every instinct in you wants to grab harder, fix it faster, understand it now so you don't have to feel the rawness of uncertainty. You, of all signs, know how to survive pain. You've worn grief like armor, used silence like a weapon, turned your own scars into maps of where not to step again. But this time is different. This is not the kind of hurt you can outthink or outcontrol, not the kind you conceal behind your famous emotional walls. This is heart-deep, soul-level, the kind of ache that makes you question who you are without the thing, the person, the story God is slowly pulling away from you. You may already feel it. Those strange arguments that come out of nowhere, the way someone you love has begun to feel distant, even when they are physically close. The way a job, a project, a plan that once felt like your lifeline now feels tight around your spirit. Like a shirt that no longer fits but you keep wearing anyway because it's all you know. You keep telling yourself you can fix it if you just try harder, if you just say the right words, if you just hold on more tightly, but the more you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. And that, Scorpio, is not failure. That is divine interference. God is not ignoring you, He is intervening. You see, there is a wound you cannot see from where you're standing now, a future heartbreak, a deeper betrayal, a mental or spiritual collapse that would come later if this connection or path were allowed to continue unchecked. You only see the current loss, the right now sting, the immediate confusion. But God sees where this road leads. He sees the version of you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, still shrinking yourself to fit inside a love that doesn't honor you, still apologizing for your intensity, still carrying the emotional weight of someone who gives you only fragments in return. He sees the burnout from staying in a place that drains your life force, pretending to be fine while your soul silently dimmed. He sees the damage of building your entire sense of worth around people who are not capable of loving you at the level your heart naturally loves. And so, before that damage becomes permanent, before that greater wound lodges itself deeper into your spirit, He begins to close the door you keep trying to hold open. That closing is what you're feeling right now. That ache in your chest, that feeling that something precious is slipping away, that sense that you are being asked to walk through life without the crutch you've been leaning on. That is not random. That is surgery without anesthesia, spiritual surgery. The kind that cuts away what is slowly poisoning you. It hurts because you're awake during it. It hurts because you're conscious this time. In the past, many of your transformations were fast and brutal. A sudden breakup, a shocking betrayal, a collapse that left you with no choice but to rebuild from ashes. This time the shift is slower, more deliberate. You're aware of every inch of the process, and that is exactly why it feels heavier. You're not just dying and resurrecting as you've done many times before, you are learning. You are watching yourself in real time as you let go of patterns that have defined your identity for years. The pattern of needing to be in control at all times, of seeing endings as proof that you're not enough, of confusing intensity with safety, of believing that if you just love harder, fight more, or endure longer, you can save what was never meant to be saved. Right now, you might be standing in one of the most hollow-feeling chapters of your story. Nothing tastes the same. Music doesn't hit like it used to. You're around people and still feel alone. You go through your routines but feel disconnected from yourself, as if the light inside you has dimmed and you're moving through life in grayscale. Part of you is asking, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Scorpio, I want you to hear this clearly. This is not happening because you are cursed, unworthy, or forgotten. This is happening because you are loved too much to be left where you are. When you refuse to walk away from what harms you, heaven begins to gently push it away from you. Not to punish you, but to protect the parts of you that still remember your true value, even when your mind forgets. God is not just shielding you from a person or situation that cannot hold your heart. He is shielding you from the version of yourself you would become if you stayed, smaller, dimmer, more bitter, more suspicious of love, more disconnected from your own softness. So yes, your heart will ache. You will pass through phases. At first, you may deny that anything is truly ending. You'll tell yourself this is just a phase, that they're just tired, that things will go back to how they were if you try a little harder, if you are a little more patient, a little more forgiving. You might replay every moment in your head, looking for the moment you messed up. That is your mind trying to protect you from the truth that some endings don't happen because you failed. They happen because the season is over. Then the anger may come, hot and sharp. Anger at God for not fixing it the way you wanted. Anger at this person for not seeing your worth. Anger at yourself for ignoring the red flags you felt from the very beginning. You might feel furious at life, convinced that you're always the one who gives the most and loses the most. Let that anger move through you, but don't let it harden you. Remember, anger is often grief in armor. Underneath it is love, disappointment, and the pain of unmet expectations. Then there is bargaining, that quiet whisper in your mind that says, if I just change this, if I just behave differently, if I just sacrifice more, maybe this won't end. Maybe I can still fix it. You may promise God that you'll be better, try harder, tolerate more, just so you don't have to feel the finality of letting go. But each time you reach back for what is already being taken, you'll feel the ache intensify. Not because you're being punished, but because you're trying to pull something back into your life that your spirit has already outgrown. After that, there may be a heavy stillness, what people like to call depression, but what your soul often experiences as sacred emptiness. The space left behind when something big has moved out of your life. You may feel numb one minute and shattered the next. You may question everything, including God, including your own intuition, including the purpose of all this pain. This is the valley, the shadowed place where there are no quick answers and no shortcuts. And then slowly, almost imperceptibly, a different kind of acceptance begins to rise. Not the fake acceptance of, I'm fine, it doesn't matter, but the deeper one that says, this hurts and I still don't understand it, but I am willing to trust that there is something sacred in this I can't see yet. That is where your real power returns. That is the moment your heart begins to open again, not to the past, but to the possibility that this breaking has meaning. And somewhere in this process, you will start to notice small shifts inside yourself. A peace that doesn't come from having answers, but from no longer trying to bend reality to your will. A strange relief in knowing you no longer have to fight for what constantly made you question your own worth. A quiet strength in realizing that you can feel this much pain and still wake up, still breathe, still move. That is when the protection begins to reveal itself. Maybe you'll hear news later that confirms that the person you lost was not as honest, loyal, or present as you believed. Maybe you'll realize that staying in that job, that city, that dynamic would have cost you your health, your creativity, your purpose. Maybe you'll see in hindsight how close you were to giving up pieces of your soul just to keep the story alive. And you will realize, if God had not allowed this heartbreak now, the wound would have been so much greater later. Your future self is being spared. Your destiny is being preserved. Your calling is being protected from being swallowed by distractions that wear the mask of love, but are actually fear in disguise. Scorpio, you are not meant to live a life where you constantly prove that you deserve to be chosen. You are not meant to water yourself down just to be tolerated. You are not meant to be the one who always holds up the sky while others stand in the shade. You were created to love deeply, yes, but also to be loved deeply in return. You were created for relationships, work, and paths that add to your light, not consume it. So if God is allowing something to be removed, if a door is closing, no matter how many times you try to reopen it, take it as a sacred sign that your spirit is being redirected toward a life that matches the depth of who you truly are. It doesn't make the ache less real. Your heart will still break. You will still have nights where the silence feels too loud and the bed feels too big and memories stab like glass. You will still have moments where you want to call, text, beg, run back, do anything just to stop the emptiness. In those moments, remember this: sometimes the pain of letting go now is the only thing standing between you and a far more devastating wound later, one that would take even longer to heal, one that would carve distrust into your heart so deeply that you'd struggle to let anyone close again. This ache, as intense as it is, has an end date. It will not last forever. There will come a morning when you wake up and realize you didn't think about them first. There will come a day when your laughter is real again, when you can remember what happened and feel gratitude instead of only grief. There will come a season when you look in the mirror and see not the shattered version of yourself, but someone softer and stronger at the same time, someone who learned that surrender is not weakness, but sacred courage. And in that moment, you'll understand that God was never trying to break you. He was trying to unbreak you from everything you built on foundations that couldn't hold your soul. You will see how He used this pain to carve out space for something healthier, holier, more genuine. You will see how this heartbreak became the turning point that restored your relationship with yourself, your intuition, and with the divine. And quietly, in your own time, you will whisper, "Thank you," not because you enjoyed the pain, but because you finally see what it saved you from. Somewhere deep in this journey, there is also a gentle reminder I need to place in your hands. What you're hearing now is not a fixed sentence carved into stone, not a rigid prediction written in the sky. This message is a mirror, a reflection of one possible path, a story about emotional and spiritual patterns that many Scorpio souls walk through at some point in their lives. It is meant as guidance, comfort, and reflection, not as a replacement for your own choices, your own discernment, your own relationship with God, with life, with reality. Think of these words as a thought experiment for your soul, a sacred what-if that invites you to look more tenderly and more honestly at where you are giving your heart, your time, your faith. If something in this message resonates, if it feels like it's talking directly to the ache you don't even tell people about, take what strengthens you, what brings you peace, what reminds you of your worth. If any part of it doesn't fit your life, let it float past you like a cloud on a windy day. Not every story belongs to every heart, and that is okay. The real power has always been and will always be inside you, the power to choose, to heal, to walk away when your spirit is no longer at home, to step into a future that honors the depth of who you are. Your heart will ache, Scorpio, but you are not breaking for nothing. You are being protected from wounds you were never meant to carry and reshaped for a destiny that has room for your whole, unedited soul.